members of the press, and the honorable ministers who are going to be briefing, taking your questions after brief by the chair, the Minister of Information, Minister Mtrangwa. So without much ado.
Cabinet meeting decision matrix. Today I do have my colleague, honorable ministers there. Honorable Minister Chasi, I'm sure he's now a very familiar face in this conference, and that's Honorable Matiza next to him, Minister of Transport, Minister Honorable Kirsty Coventry, our Minister of Youth, and of course, I was going to introduce you as our minister. Once again, okay, thank you very, very much. Today, Cabinet received a report. The first report was from the Minister of Transport and Infrastructure Development on the need to produce number plates locally, since they were being produced outside the country. And this is in line with our vision to make sure that we work hard for import substitution. Cabinet tasked local innovation hubs to come up with a patent for the local production of number plates with the requisite security features. Cabinet is confident that the move to produce number plates locally will ease the current shortages which we are experiencing at the moment in the country due to the limited availability of foreign currency. The local production of new number plates will also increase the utilization of the country's resources, including local scientists, and create employment for citizens, jobs, jobs, jobs. Then the next report was received from, was an update report by the Minister of Energy and Power Development on the country's power and fuel supply situation. Cabinet noted with concern that although the daily average diesel and petrol uplifts for the past week had increased compared to the previous week, fuel queues continue to be visible. Consequently, Cabinet reiterated that all service stations caught engaging in illegal activities be identified and perpetrators brought to book through fines, and where appropriate, withdrawal of operating licenses. Then Cabinet also received and appreciated progress reports in the implementation of the fourth 100-day cycle priority projects. The following ministers did present. Energy and Power Development. The Minister of Energy and Power Development, Honorable Chasi, informed Cabinet as follows. The expansion of Hwange Thermal Power Station, Unit 7 and 8, which is envisaged to add 600 megawatts to the national grid, is progressing well, with all the geotechnical investigations having been completed and designs, reviews, excavations, and site leveling at a very advanced stage. The completion of the expansion works will help ease the power supply challenges currently besetting the country. The second project in that 100-day, 92 out of the 2010 transformers to be manufactured countrywide under the transformer manufacturing project have been completed. So transformers being manufactured locally. Under the smart metering project, about 404 out of the targeted 2,000 smart meters configured with GSM SIM cards have been installed. And under the rural provinces grid extension projects, 31 out of 35 targeted institutions comprising schools and clinics have been grid electrified with prepaid meters connected. That was the report from the Minister of Energy, Honorable Chasi. Honorable Matiza gave his report as Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development. The Minister informed Cabinet as follows. Bush clearance and road formation of the 5-kilometer stretch from Melfort to Bromley has been completed, and the road is now waiting surfacing. And then the next is construction works on the Harare-Bulawayo Road, the bridge over rail in Norton. That has been completed, with the bridge now just waiting for commissioning. Then third project, 28.6 kilometers of the 48.2 kilometer stretch of the Mandamabwe-Chiwitugwi Road has been completed and opened to traffic. These are projects which have already been completed in the 100 days. Then the fourth project is approaches for 3 bridges which were ravaged by the cyclone Idai on the Wengezi Chimanimani Road, namely Umvumvuvu number 2, number 3, and 4 have been completed, and they have been opened to traffic. And the fifth project, which the ministry has completed, works on the upgrading of the 5-kilometer stretch in Chivu and 3-kilometer stretch in Beatrice along the Harare-Masvingo Highway have been carried out to base 2 and to priming levels. That is the report from the Minister of Transport. And then the Minister of Environment, Tourism, Climate and Hospitality Industry in absentia was represented by the Acting Minister, Honorable Mchinguri Kashiri. The Minister reported as follows. Under the Customer Care and Services Project, identification of institutions to undergo training and the development of customized training manuals have been completed. That's one of the projects. Second project, under the ministry, under the community participation in fisheries programs, construction of the 8 ponds at designated schools and communities in Chinyika, Bonsted and Hubru in Mashonaland East Province has been completed, with the ponds now awaiting stocking. Then the third project for the ministry, identification of biogas digester sites has been completed, while construction of the same is in progress in Masvingo and Matabele North provinces under the biodegradable solid waste management project. And the fourth project for the Ministry of Environment, an application for tender waiver for the establishment of a sawmill plant in Kesho Valley, Manicaland province, has been submitted. And finally, the fifth project is the construction of an ablution block in Wange under the Community Participation in Tourism Conservation Project in Matabele North Province has now been approved by the local leadership, with the environmental impact assessment having been completed and the project site pegged. Then the Minister of Women Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprises also gave a report on the ministry's 100 days cycle projects. The Minister informed the Cabinet on the first project, which is work on the upgrading of a technology center at Harare Institute of Technology and a common facility center in Chinoi. They are at an advanced stage, with equipment from Chitungwiza Small and Medium Enterprises Development Corporation warehouse to the sites have been completed. So that has been also completed. And then the other project is the renovation of a one-stop center in Rusape under the One-Stop Center Phase 2 project. That has been completed. The One-Stop Center has been ravaged. The one which was there had been ravaged by a fire in September 21. So the refurbishments have just been finished. Then the fourth project is funding for 30. They have funded 30 small and medium enterprises projects in Manicaland, in Masvingo, and Matabele North provinces. That has been, the funding has been secured. Now they are monitoring on the funded projects. Then finally, the disbursement of a total of 480,641 Zimbabwe dollars to these 14 out of 20 community-initiated projects have been effected in the following provinces: Manicaland, Mashonaland East, and Harare provinces. This project will benefit communities in various sectors, which include horticulture, brick molding, cattle fattening, and poultry. Then Minister Kirsty Coventry gave also her report on the fourth 100-day cycle projects. The Minister of Youth, Sports, Arts and Recreation informed Cabinet as follows: that the first project, the National Sport and Recreation Strategy, has been reviewed and is set to be benchmarked with international best practices. Second project, the establishment of the Tabudirira Vocational Training Center Tomato Processing Plant in Mutoko, Mashonaland East Province, is at 60% completion, and that is on course. Fourth, the establishment of the Youth Interact Center in Harare Province is 85% complete. And finally, the installation of a drip irrigation system in Masvingo is also complete, and its utilization will commence during this current agricultural season. That goes for the Minister of Youth, Sports, Arts and Recreation. Then the Minister of Local Government and Public Works also gave their fourth 100-day cycle projects. The Minister, who was represented by Minister Ziambe, gave the report as follows. Construction work at the ZRP Tomlinson Depot Flats in Harare. This is for institutional accommodation for police, which is meant to improve access to accommodation, is progressing very well. And then secondly, the upgrading of the Mabula sewer treatment plant in Rishawane town in Midlands, and this will improve sewer treatment capacity in the town of Rishawane. And this is at 80% completion. The third being the Magamba Extension Water Reticulation Project, targeting to connect a total of 1,181 properties to water supply in Rusape town, Manicaland Province, is at 95% completion. Then the fourth project is the Cholocho Disaster Recovery Project in Chiro Saudweni in Matebeleland North. Is now complete, with 5 houses having been constructed. The project targets to rehabilitate communities affected by cyclone-induced floods in the 2016-2017 rain season. And finally, the fifth project is the Kamutsenzere Piped Water Scheme, being undertaken to increase access to safe water for our communities under Fura Rural District Council in Mount Darwin. That's in Mashonaland Central Province. That one is complete, and 2,765 people are already benefiting from this project. That is the report from the Ministry of Local Government. Then that brings us to the report on the ratification of the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa and Eastern Europe Community, Southern Africa Development Community, COMESA, EAC, SADC, that tripartite free trade area agreement. Cabinet considered and approved the ratification of the COMESA EAC SADC tripartite free trade area TFTA agreement, and this was presented by the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs as chairman of the Cabinet Committee on Legislation. The TFTA brings together combined membership of COMESA, EAC, and SADC under a single free trade area, thereby addressing the challenge of multiple membership and boosting intra-regional trade and economic development among member states. The TFTA seeks to achieve the following objectives. Inter alia, to promote economic and social development in the tripartite region, to create a large single market with free movement of goods and services in order to promote intra-regional trade, and finally, to enhance the regional and continental integration processes. In essence, the TFTA will bring together 29 African countries with a combined current population of more than 632 million and a combined gross domestic product of US dollars 1.3 trillion. The TFTA constitutes half of the African Union in terms of membership. Such a market naturally creates opportunities for economies of scale for producers of various goods and services in the tripartite region. Zimbabwe stands to benefit immensely from membership of the TFTA. The country will no longer be restricted to the production of traditional goods and instead will become the hub for new manufacturing operations that serve wider markets. The country will substantially reduce the cost of doing business and thereby radically transform its industrial processes and models. I thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you very much.
Since Mr. Wititi, energy supply is affected by events in South Africa. I'm happy to report that although the South Africans are facing challenges in the power sector, they've continued to supply us with power. But in our planning, we have taken the position as government that we should diversify our sources of power, even from an importation point of view. So we are safe and sound at the moment, but we're doing everything we can to ensure that we achieve energy security in Zimbabwe. Should there be challenges in that area, I have no doubt that our South African sisters and brothers will communicate that to us, that they are unable. But as of now, we've not received such a communication, and we're continuing to receive power in accordance with the undertakings that we made in our contract with them. You have also asked me about Machela Cocoa, Machela Energy. Yes, as government, we are always anxious when investors come to invest in our country, and in our particular circumstances at the moment, we always look forward to a project achieving fruition and giving us energy. I've met Mr. Machela Cocoa many times since the time that he came to apply. He has all the freedom. In fact, he has rocked up at my office without appointment, and I've seen him. So what I need in order for me to go forward is not vacuous statements of bribery. We take bribery very seriously as government, and it's one of the areas that we are focusing on. And I want to urge him publicly to give me the names of the individuals who may have asked for a bribe from himself, and I can assure you that as government will take very, very swift action against this type of thing. Costa, rains, yes. I'm quite jittery at the moment because I'm very anxious that we have lots of rains to get into Kariba. But I think it's too early for us now to be excited. I'm hoping that we can have more and more. But the impact of the rains will not be felt immediately. What we've done as government at the moment is to slow down our utilization of Kariba so that we can stretch the very little water, the capacity that is there of live water, into next year. We're expecting that in the first few months of next year, we'll have the various work that we are doing, the various units that we're working on kicking in, so that in the event that we don't have sufficient water in Kariba to generate power to the desirable capacity, we'll still have sufficient power to continue to run our economy. We must all pray for rains. We need rains desperately, provided they don't become floods or anything of that magnitude.
Well, thank you very much, Minister Chasi. I want to go
for quite a while now, for a long time, and government is very anxious to make sure that it is rehabilitated and is safe and suitable for traffic. We are losing quite a lot of revenue through trucks diverting their routes because of the state of the road. So in this new dispensation, His Excellency ordered that this road be operational, fully operational at SATIC standards, and the contractors be procured locally. And that is exactly what has happened. In the first instance, there was the Beatrice chainage of a 10 kilometer and Chivu chainage of also 10 kilometers. But we expedited the process by contracting 6 contractors who are plying their works in the 4 provinces that the road crosses. So they are on site now, and they've been paid for mobilization. They're doing detours. If you go through that road, you'll see a hive of activity now. And we are hoping by 2023, the phase of this process will be complete, that is widening the road from 7.5 meters to 12.5 meters. And we are excited about it. At last, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Very good, Chief.
Okay, so it will be final in 2023?
Yes,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. Completed.
Oh, that's what you wanted. That it will be finalized.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that brings us to the end. And I just have to thank my honorable ministers. Thank you, Chief Secretary.
And thank you,
And thank-
members of the media, until we meet again.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your punishment. Now my son is here, don't mess with me. Such a good life.